Hey, it's Josh the car guy here. I'm with another one, a 2025 Porsche Cayenne Turbo E-Hybrid Coupe. And I'm telling you, this thing doesn't even look like a coupe. Let's just take a look. On this one, this is for another client of ours that just recently came in, and their taste is Porsche, of course. They had this special thought of they just wanted a mix just of colors. However, we did send them this one. It is Carmine Black Metallic, and it resonated with them even though they wanted it like a mixed color. So the funny thing with this one is if you check those calipers, so with these calipers you have that green, that acid green, and that's what kicked it off for them. And I mean, I can't blame them. Look at that. It looks pretty good. Interior, leather interior, of course. This thing has 16,674 miles. Generally, you have one UN on this thing, all-wheel drive, 4.08 cylinder. Yes, guys, a hybrid can come in a 8-cylinder, which this is a plug-in hybrid, by the way. But it has a CR on there. But again, CR is condition report, guys, at 4.7. Generally, the highest, CR is a 5.0. So we're going to want to go in depth with this, of course, to see what that 5 is. And of course, we've already reviewed a few things, reached out to the seller, had a few conversations as well. And of course, I'd always like to take you guys upon the journey. So I'm just going to go over quickly with that CR and a little bit more details on this vehicle, but it's pretty nice, guys. You can't beat it. Right now, the price tag, as you guys can see, $153,495. The bid 151,495. Really, not really much of a difference, to be quite frank with you. We could definitely look at the MMR, see what that looks like. Of course, this is 2025, so not really much data here, but you can see, looking at this, 462, 160, 4,140, 128,000 on this. This was back in November of last year, 128, 1661. That's 1660, 61. I almost want to make me feel like it was the same vehicle I was sold back in November, and they're basically trying to resell it, or better yet, get a little bit more eyes on it. So generally, of course, dealers, auto brokers alike come on this platform, try to still sell either one, sell their inventory a little bit faster, two, of course, they just want to get rid of it, or three, of course, try to make a quick flip in regards to these vehicles. So now, in regards to that, looking at that MMR being at 128 and 661 on the miles, 1661, that's kind of telling me this was the same vehicle that was sold in, November. It has a 4.6. This one have a 4.7. That's not much of a difference. And it's also black. So that kind of tells me, that might have actually been the same thing. It has, almost the same miles, which actually give me room for negotiation, actually. It has 128. So they're basically trying to, shave off of this about 25, give or take probably 20. By the time, you have fees and everything, they do have off on here. So generally, if I'm going to get this 2-to-1, they're probably going to take 140, 145 on the minimum, because of course they're trying to make some money on this. But either way, the client loves it. This is typically, a vehicle that we would tell them, all this information prior to, but they're still loving the color scheme. The calipers are really and truly is what's selling them, So, looking into this interior, you have the moonroof. Nice back seating, very spacious. You can't even say this thing is almost like a coupe, really and truly, with all the space that it comes with, right? Just look at that. Yeah. So, looking at this and then the CR, let's see what's going on here. You have 4.7. Generally, you want We usually want this thing to be like a 5.0, but with 16,000 miles is a variable that you may have some scratches or cosmetic stuff going on there if they drove it a lot, being that it is a 2025. And I mean, of course, industry standards is between 15 to about 20,000 miles a year, but this generally don't even have a year on it, at least not a complete, and it's already at 16,000. So they have been doing some very good driving on this thing. So as you can see here, 4.5, the hood. Let's see here. Okay, so chipped. Severity 2, not really bad. I mean, if it was like a 4.5, yeah, really bad. But the severity is not bad. So this generally would call for a physical, right? And then you got the bumper, it have chipped a 3. Yes. So generally with the miles, just by me looking at it and understanding what's going on with it, is like this is more so highway miles, right? They've been driving it a lot, and 2 to 1 these things appear. So this definitely calls for a physical. And another thing why I would say it calls for a physical is because with these high end vehicles, another big thing is, some people do like a lease option. They just drive the vehicle, they don't care about it or whatever, or if something happens, they don't want to say, and they go ahead and get something cheaply done. So that's another problem. You're paying this amount of type of money, and at the same time, you would want top quality. So this is something that we definitely have to check, get the grades of the paint and everything to double check that they didn't do that prior to even investing in this vehicle. Even though, of course, the client really loves the vehicle, these are things that we try to mitigate for you, right? So looking at these, everything looks good there. 732 tires, not bad. Now, of course, with 16,000 miles, we're going to have to check the Carfax, which we already have pulled up. Let's see here. Okay, there you go. So yeah, check that too. Pump out 3. Okay. Okay, good. So we have the Carfax pulled up. Of course, this is 2025. Again, it has one owner, 16,674 miles. Porsche, Beechwood. Okay. Generally, looking at the Carfax, you want to just tell a story. Some people look at this, they don't really know what to connect and how to connect the dots. These are things that we generally do. We want a story out of this, not generally just looking at different details. But here you have it, the Ford 2025, you do have actually a recall. Now, if you guys previously know, for us, generally, if a vehicle has a recall here in the US, we try not to send it to the Caribbean, due to the fact that of course there's not dealers there that could actually satisfy these recalls. Now, of course, if there is a recall and it's open and they actually have a resolution for it, generally the sellers are open to actually getting it satisfied prior to. And if they are, generally we could be a little bit lenient when it comes to that. So it's generally, looking at it from the first sight, looking at the Carfax, it raises an alarm. But of course, in that too, before even raising an alarm, what we do is actually, Porsche actually have a platform where, as you could see, if this particular vehicle has it, or if they did already satisfy it, it actually say that this particular vehicle does not have a recall. So let's just go ahead and check that. Double check and check that. Okay, so this is the Porsche official here, which you could basically just take the VIN, put that in here, and it should pull that same Porsche up. So you have the Cayenne Turbo E Hybrid Coupe, same VIN, just to double check here. 174175. 4175 open recall. There are currently no open recalls for this vehicle. So that generally tell us that was a recall for, and of course you can see here, battery control unit, high voltage programming. So Generally, that was recalled for a particular amount of batch. There's a particular batch amount that recall possibly is for. So you usually have like the beginning of the year vehicles that just came out, or the first batch, the second batch, 2 to 1. Maybe this thing looking at, let's just see here. 12 to 24. This is the first batch. Maybe it is the second batch of 2025 Porsche Cayennes that actually has that recall compared to the first batch, which kind of is a bit weird for me. I mean, of course, this is more so 2024, as you guys can see. Generally, sometimes it's the middle of 2025 that would indicate the second batch, but looking at this, it does not fall under this, or sometimes they actually already got it satisfied, so that's a plus. But now that we have this information, that is another question that we'll raise with the seller prior to. And then also, as stated, we're going to have an inspection on this vehicle, being that it's already 16,000 miles. The servicing, last time 16,672. Vehicle was serviced, inspected, completed, nitrogen filled, filled the tires up with air, oil filter changed, which is good, but that still has to be checked. Cosmetic needs to be checked. At 4.7, we need to thoroughly go through. And generally, looking at this vehicle, the next best step is having that conversation on the recall. And then second, of course, scheduling that inspection due to the fact that this vehicle is, 60,000 miles and it's going out to the Caribbean, which we need this vehicle to be in top shape if we're going to move forward, right? So, yeah, definitely thank you guys for watching. If you guys found value in this, definitely click the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.